Hi, my name is Kevin Matthews, and I am at St. Mary's House Campus and Young Adult Ministry in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm the first clergy delegate deputy to General Convention for this year. And I am also sitting on the Committee for Prayer Book, Liturgy, and Music. We are the committee that received the most resolutions of any, but fortunately a lot of them were about the same issues. So we were able to get through them just yesterday. In fact, we got through our last committee meeting before convention. One of the things that we did not expect to see happen when we started back in January was a resolution that a lot of people know about now, which has to do with open altar, or as it's commonly called, open communion. The resolution about that originally came out of the Diocese of Northern California, so it wasn't something that was on our schedule of expectations, and we only saw it in April. So we really only had a chance to discuss it yesterday for the first time, and it has gotten a lot of buzz on social media. A lot of conversation has been generated about do you have to be baptized before you can receive communion? And traditionally, the church has said yes. But there have been some rethinking about that by some people over the years, and so the resolution was put forth for the Episcopal Church to allow that, which it does not currently do. And we got to talk about it a long time. We also noted that general conventions have addressed this question in the past, and so where the decision on that comes out is something that we're all going to have to wait and see. We know what we decided, but I would not be surprised if that gets changed along the way. So that's something to look for. The big thing that we really expected to deal with was prayer book revision. It's been on General Convention calendar for the last couple of times. We knew we were leading up to it, and we've been doing some pieces of it piecemeal. But it's getting to the point where we have so many different liturgies and Eucharistic prayers and things out there that we really kind of need to make some decisions about what the prayer book is and what should be in it going forward. And what you'll find is a unique solution that was proposed by the Standing Committee on Liturgy and Music, the committee that meets throughout between general conventions. Was to take the prayer book digital, and to memorialize the 79 prayer book, which we were asked to do, which we were told to do, back in 2018. And we can put it there and say it's always there for use. But to also pass some other things that we say have the same rigorous testing, that have to go through 2 general conventions as prayer books do. But that way we don't have to reprint the book. And we know already that many, if not most, churches are putting booklets together. The pandemic sort of pushed that forward a lot. They're going digital with what their service book looks like. And this way, churches won't also actually be expected, if there ever is a full revision of the prayer book, won't be expected to buy all those books. A second big issue that we had to deal with was the calendar of the church. And this has a whole lot of ramifications about it. We had 3 different books of saints in them. Well, in 2018, we passed a revision for what's called trial use of a new edition of Lesser Feasts and Fasts. Well, we need to pass the 2nd edition of that. So that becomes the calendar. And all the other books fall away. But we also then have some new names that people have proposed to add to the list. And we had some names that were proposed last time that we need to put on trial use for the coming year. Coming triennial. On that list of names, of course, is Barbara Harris. And Barbara Harris was actually proposed to be added to the list by our own deputation in North Carolina. By 15 other dioceses and groups around the church. So there were 16 separate resolutions that's just dealing with adding Barbara Harris to the calendar. It's now there is a list, and we've got a revision coming to it. It's of norms and standards for who gets added to the church's calendar, and one of them talks about how long it's been since they died. It's which it says it is normative. It's at least that's the word we're going to finally include in it as we revise that list. Normative that they be dead for 2 generations or 50 years. It's but there's also a provision that says at any rate they should at least have to pass through 2 general conventions before they can be considered for adding. It's and if that passes, if that resolution about those norms passes, it's then that will affect several names that we received this time, including Barbara Harris's, because she just died a couple of years ago. That's what we have proposed to do with that is we are sending her name to the Standing Committee on Liturgy and Music. It's with the provision asking them specifically to prepare lessons, a collect, it's a biography, all of the things that would be included in the lesson feasts and fasts. It's to prepare those for us for consideration. The resolution actually says at a future date. It's you can imagine that some people will make sure that it happens at the next general convention. It's that's about the fastest we can do it. Another issue, though, that came up, it is more complicated than we thought it was going to be, is the inclusion of Juneteenth on the calendar. Several dioceses asked that be included as a new, a new feast day. And we were challenged by this because we realized that Juneteenth is a uniquely a unique date for the United States. It's and that it's a part of our specific history. It's and in an international church, we were wondering, is this the way to go? But of course, by asking that question, we opened up the question about why our Independence Day and Thanksgiving Day on the calendar too, as not only as feasts, but as major feasts in the calendar. But so we are putting all of that back in the Standing Committee on Liturgy and Music's hands, that to say, you really need to help us clean this up. It's how do countries specifically address major issues in their faith life that are not as specific and clear and understood and necessarily important in other parts of the Episcopal Church, which is in 21 different countries around the world. So what looked like a simple addition ended up being a complicated one. So our recommendation is going to be to go back for some more work in order to make it happen in a way that makes sense for a global church. And then finally, we're going to be looking at what happens with people who maybe don't need to be on the church-wide calendar, but are important in your community and should be remembered. And so we are going to really beef up. We have a proposal for adding some collects and some prayers to the Book of Occasional Services to help us with what we call local observances. So that somebody, just because somebody's not on the national calendar doesn't mean you can't observe them, can't have services to remember them, and do things around the date for them. This is also a way that people sometimes will rise up to being on the national calendar and included ultimately in lesson feasts and fasts. But not everybody that gets celebrated needs to be. And so we want to really support that notion. So there's a resolution to make that more accessible, more available, and more possible. So these are the things that are going to come out of our committee. Some of them are going to end up on the consent calendar, but of course, anything that goes on the consent calendar can be taken off by somebody. So we know the prayer book's going to end up in discussion. We assume that open altar, open communion may end up back in discussion. Look for these things to go first to the House of Bishops, because that's where they normally go. And whatever the arcane rules about what goes to which house first are, most of ours go to them. So that's where they will end up before they end up with the House of Deputies. And that's about it. It's a that's a lot, but that's about it.